again, the National Football League has decided to desecrate the sacred American sport of football, a sport that has united Americans for decades by playing the divisive Negro national anthem before the game. Now look, I certainly have no problem with there being a Black American national anthem, but there's a time and place for everything, and the Super Bowl is not the time nor the place. We don't play the Asian American national anthem, the Muslim American national anthem, the Indian American national anthem, the Native American national anthem. What has caused us to play favorites with certain Americans over every other race during the Super Bowl? What is it? The point is, the moment you start playing favorites, you inevitably exclude everyone else, everyone. And you start controversy, which we don't need in sports. It's a place for us to heal and unite, not to divide. This is why we should play favorites at all. It's why we should sing only the United States national anthem, an anthem made for all Americans that includes everybody, regardless of race, color, or creed, because that is what people don't seem to understand. Yes, America has had a marred past with racial injustice, just as every other country has. But our national anthem has always stood for one thing and one thing only. Not white Americans, not Black Americans, but Americans. No matter who you are, no matter where you come from, the national anthem is your anthem. And when that beautiful song is sung for every American, everywhere. I'm Armstrong Williams, live from Super Bowl 59.
You know, when Francis Scott Key wrote the Star-Spangled Banner, he was not writing it for one race or one ideology. He was writing it for America. And when we sing the national anthem, we don't sing it for one race, one religion, or one ideology. We sing it for all Americans. And yes, I know the Negro national anthem, lift every voice and sing. I've sang it at conventions. I've sang it at church. And it's a hymn where it's appropriate. But on a day like the Super Bowl, the national anthem is the only anthem that should be sung that unites all Americans together. Because my commentary at the Super Bowl was not about race. It's about what brings us together as Americans and what unites us. Let me welcome my guest to today's broadcast. Joe Paul is welcome. We welcome him back. Patrice Onwuka, Virginia Allen, we welcome you back, and Sal Greco, my man. So I want to start with you, Patricia, because in no way do I slight the meaning of the Negro National Anthem. In no way do I slight the fact that there was a time in our history where we could not we had to have our own organizations. We were not welcome in these institutions, and so we were forced to segregate. But those times, as far as I'm concerned, are long behind us, and we've made so much progress. And what we must do is unify as Americans, not see ourselves as tribe, but unify under the anthem and that flag, red, white, and blue. Because if the Russians were to drop a bomb on America today, that bomb would not have someone's ideology, someone's race, or someone's religion. All they would care about is they destroy Americans. Patricia?
Well, typically, and good to see you, Armstrong, and everyone. Typically, I really don't have a dog in the fight. I grew up singing the Black National Anthem in elementary school, and in a lot of the sporting events in high school and through K through 12, we actually really didn't play it. We played the national anthem, and so that's what young people got accustomed to learning. Do I think that it should be played at the Super Bowl or even some of the other highest profile sporting events? I don't think that it's a big deal, honestly. If you were to eliminate it, would anyone notice it's gone? Probably not. And that probably is telling about the progress that's been made. To your point, that when the song was written, it was to give visibility to Blacks, to their accomplishments, their achievements, and their abilities. And now that the visibility of Blacks in America, from media to sports to CEO levels to the private and public sector, is such that something like the Black National Anthem is probably not needed.
Sal Greco.
I think it should just be one national anthem. It's what we've all grown up under. I hate when they start injecting this whole, this tribalism or like trying to have people fight against each other. I mean, if you look at the Super Bowl, there were two African-American quarterbacks leading both teams. I mean, we've come a long way. I understand some people still might have feelings about certain things, but we're together as a nation. We're together no matter what. And I think the national anthem, that's what it really stands for. I understand some people in the past, they were kneeling, all this other stuff, but the reason we take those 3 minutes just to acknowledge it is for everything this country has not only had in the past, but how we're evolving forward. We are a nation that evolves. So we are evolving forward, and I think it's a unifying message to be standing and give and pay your respects for the nation. That means everyone, Armstrong, not just yourself or your friends. That's everyone included.
Joe Paul?
Look, I don't disagree with the fact that two anthems were played at the Super Bowl. I think that America is big enough for both of them. And this is Black History Month. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging the struggle of a people. And that's exactly what the song is about. Lift every voice and sing. The song was written almost 60 plus years after the national anthem was written. And it was a direct response to what we're experiencing as a people. So there's really nothing wrong with that. America's big enough for both. I don't think that there is an issue with us singing a national anthem, especially during Black History Month, which the Super Bowl happens to fall on that. And you have hundreds of millions of eyes on that show on the Super Bowl Sunday. And so there's nothing wrong with really bringing exposure and raising awareness about our plight in America.
Virginia?
Yeah, I think the risk here is that you cause people to segregate themselves, to say, oh, okay, the national anthem, well, maybe that's not really for me. So it creates, I think, unnecessary division, long story short. And I would especially be thinking about kids who might kind of hear that and think, oh, like, why does this group of individuals have a separate song from the one that the rest of us are singing? So I absolutely agree. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful song. The Black National Anthem should be sung, should be known. And Armstrong, I agree with you. The Super Bowl is not the place or the time, because the beauty of the national anthem is it's the national anthem for all of us, every single American united under that one banner. And that is the power and the beauty of football, that it does bring Americans together in such a beautiful way.
And I was so happy the Eagles beat Kansas City's butt, beat them down, okay? People say it was a boring Super Bowl. Let me tell you, I enjoyed every split second of it, okay? Now listen, I want to bring your attention to, everybody's aware that President Trump and his Attorney General asked them to drop all charges against Mayor Eric Adams. Now, I thought, now, I'm always evolving. I'm always willing to learn. I thought it was a good thing. I thought that Eric Adams was falsely accused. It was a witch hunt because he spoke against Biden and Harris on the immigration policies. But my man, let me just tell you, my man, as soon as I posted it, my man was on my social media saying Donald Trump has made a colossal mistake and bad judgment. And I respect Sal Greco. And so I said to Aaron, I texted him 2 a.m. in the morning because I was up. I just happened to wake up. I said, get Sal Greco on the air. Sal, give us the other side to this story. Because you were a New York police, NYPD cop for 14 years. You know about Eric Adams. You worked with him. Give us the insights.
Well, I've covered this a lot on my own show and a lot, like step by step, how this indictment went down. First of all, there is a narrative out there designed to attract the attention of a low information voter, stating that Eric Adams spoke out against the migrant crisis, therefore he was politically targeted. That is false. We will go back to facts here, Armstrong. 2021, Eric Adams began to run for mayor. That is when the initial investigation started, because he was receiving money from Turkish straw donors. Okay, so he was getting money through an 8-to-1 matching fund program, and it was being done through Turkish companies and people involved with the Turkish government and so on and so forth. They went back and they actually looked, and he's actually done this for 10 years. He did it also as the Brooklyn Borough president. Whatever relationship was there with these foreign nations, it's been going on for 10 years. So then we have this set of characters that are around Eric Adams. You have the chief advisor, Ingrid Lewis-Martin. We have this guy, Mohammed Bahi. There's other individuals around Eric Adams. But we'll say when the indictment was brought forward and they brought these charges, it was that he would receive $10 million in campaign matching funds, which is the 8-to-1 match in New York City. But it was all done illicitly through these straw donors. We also had other people, Armstrong, that pled guilty, that already have a convicted felon record. They have a record of being a felon because of Eric Adams. They pled guilty to things in and around Eric Adams. Two people in the instance are the Turkish person that was one of the straw donors. His name is Erden Erkan. He pled guilty, and he pled guilty to some of the charges involving Eric Adams' own case and Mohammed Bahi. And Mohammed Bahi, in his when he pled guilty, and what he was saying was that in one instance, when he showed up to this guy Erden Arkan's house, Eric Adams himself, who he says, I did not do anything wrong, there's no evidence of it, he stated that Eric Adams told him to let him know that the FBI, when they show up, don't worry about anything, as the FBI won't be able to trace cash, the cash that he has and the cash that he was giving Eric Adams. That doesn't sound like a politician. That doesn't even sound like a candidate, Armstrong. That sounds like a street thug operating like a mob boss. I find this very peculiar, why it would drop this case, and there's no reason for the case to be dropped, Armstrong. We'll make that clear in that whole memo. There is nothing that states the merits of why it was dropped. If you're using that, the former attorney, head of the U.S. Southern District of New York, Damian Williams, wrote an op-ed. If you read this op-ed, Damian Williams never mentions Eric Adams or any. He is talking about a system of corruption in New York State and city and how it's been for many years and how he feels as I guess he's a Democrat. I didn't know that, but he's saying that they should focus on that as a party instead of what they were doing, which was identity politics and all this other stuff they play in New York City. They used that as a reason to drop this case. And Armstrong, I could be you know that I voted for President Trump 3 times. But I'm not a MAGA Sika fan. I don't pray at the altar of Donald Trump. I pray to God, okay? What's being done here, it needs a bigger explanation as to why. Because technically, Armstrong, to hold this case, which was done in a way where now it's temporarily suspended, not prejudicial.
Hold that point, because they can come back to these charges. And they did not question the evidence or the charges against him. He just said it was a disruption to enforcing his immigration policies. I think it's very important to note that. We're going to take a break and come back. I'm Armstrong Williams. Don't go away. That means crazy. It's something, isn't it? So, Patricia, let me start with you. You know, I had an op-ed in Baltimore Sun this week because Elon Musk has brought President Trump's attention to the displacement of white South Africans, where the government is taking their land and giving it back to black South Africans. And, you know, I remember the story of Cecil Rhodes and the diamond industry when you think hundreds of years ago, how the land were taken from blacks and given to whites at the time, and they did it in the name of power. Had nothing to do with race. They had the power, so therefore they made the rules. And so I wrote a cautionary editorial to President Trump. Make sure you understand the history and all the components to it as to why we got to this place, but we take on this issue in South Africa. So South Africa's land reform policies aim to address these historical injustices from apartheid, but critics argue, okay, that they could undermine economic stability. How do you assess the balance between justice and economic security there?
This is a very tricky issue because of the historical roots. I think anyone who decides to draw direct parallels to the United States and think that this is an easy answer should be cautious about it. What's interesting with what South Africa is doing right now, you can call it akin to eminent domain. We have similar laws in this country where the government, for a compelling reason, can confiscate individual person's property. But the difference is you're supposed to be compensated. Whereas in South Africa, it appears that you would not necessarily be compensated. You would get zero and you would lose your land. So that's definitely a personal rights, a property rights issue, a pretty significant one. But it's being done, it's supposed to be done in the name of kind of a racial reconciliation and kind of to ensure that the Black majority is compensated for the past atrocities that were done to them. But the question is, do two wrongs make a right? And that's going to have to be for the South African government to figure out. Now, the United States, what is our role here? Well, we've been allies with South Africa in the past, but I think over the past few decades, you've seen a slow erosion of South Africa away from the United States and probably away from our allies, in particular Israel, and South Africa has been more aligning itself with other anti-Israel allies in the Middle East. And so there's been a chilling effect on the relationship between the United States and South Africa. This is one aspect of that, but it's certainly something that we've been seeing in terms of the relationship.
Well, let me interrupt you a minute. Let me interrupt you because I want people to get the full understanding because we call this citizen journalism. I don't think people realize that Elon Musk, whom I have a lot of respect for, I respect what he's doing with Doge, but his roots are he's South African born. Now, what he's trying to do now, whether you realize it or not, he is meeting with Cecil Ramaphosa, who's the president of South Africa. South Africa has laws in place that if you do business in the South African economy, you must set aside a certain amount of that percentage of that business to make sure that it's Black ownership. What Elon Musk is saying now, you must change the rules and make me as a businessman an exception in order for me to do business in South Africa. I'm gonna stick with you, Patricia. What are your thoughts on that? Even if Ramaphosa decides to make an exception in the law of the land?
Well, we certainly see that Elon Musk has a dog in this fight, and he's probably part of the influence with President Trump right now. Should he be able to get that kind of concession from the South African government? I think that's really fraught because any big U.S. company or foreign company can come in and demand the same thing. And so if the goal for the South African government is redistribution, which frankly, that's full of pitfalls within itself. But if they're trying to redistribute resources to the Black majority from the white minority, then giving in to Elon Musk is not a good idea. That said, should a country be doing that? I think that's a bigger question here, whether redistribution for any purpose is the right answer. And it's not going to heal racial tensions. That's my concern.
It would exacerbate them. So let me go to Virginia Allen. I despise hypocrisy from the left. They're making this big deal of that Elon Musk is a threat to democracy. It's a constitutional crisis. Senator John Fetterman says it's not a constitutional crisis. It's necessary. And he says the constitutional crisis is the Democrats' reaction. But they make this big issue about a billionaire having excess influence on Donald Trump. Why did not the media have the same narrative, Virginia, when it was George Soros and Bill Gates at the Department of Interior? Jeff Bezos at Amazon. They were billionaires and had not equally, but the same amount of influence on Biden-Harris. Why was there not an outcry during that time? What's the standard here?
Yeah, what is different here is that Elon Musk is coming after them. He's coming after the big government that they love, that they have been able to manipulate for years, that they have been able to grow larger in order to fulfill their own leftist agenda and complete their pet projects. And so Elon Musk is a direct threat to everything that the far left and that so many Democrats stand for, which is bigger, more government. And so you also have, I think, this level of transparency in the Trump administration that we haven't had. So many people know the name George Soros, but a lot of Americans, they're not seeing him on TV. Well, Elon Musk is out there saying exactly what he's doing for the whole world to see. And in that capacity, in some ways, he's kind of made himself a target, which in a way I think is honorable. He's not trying to hide anything. He's very open. He's very honest about what his agenda is, about what his goal is, and that's to trim the fat of the government and to go after really cutting so much waste and our tax dollars and ensuring that our money, that the money of American citizens is spent wisely. So, of course, Democrats are going to be upset about that.
And let me just add, Donald Trump made it clear during his campaign that he was creating Doge and that Elon Musk would play a substantial role. So this feigning shock and surprise is just ridiculous. Sal, another thing about the mainstream media, they malign, humiliated Donald Trump as being a puppet and a rubber stamp of Putin because he continued to have a relationship with Vladimir Putin. And then all of a sudden, Donald Trump and Putin have been communicating this week, along with Zelensky. Looks like there's a possible solution to end this crisis between Ukraine and Russia. And also, with all that going on, the promise that he made on the campaign trail about freeing the son, Foger, became a reality. The hostage was released this week. So Donald Trump, in his infinite wisdom, by ignoring the press and those that malign him, kept that relationship with Putin going. And look at the possibility of the dividends that it's going to play not only for the American people, but the global world stage.
Well, I'd say this. His instincts are always good, especially when it comes to foreign policies. Even in his previous presidency, it was the same thing. I mean, he had the Abraham Accords. He's very good at negotiating with foreign nations and what's in the best interest of America. So when it came to this one instance where people had him, much maligned that he's a Russian puppet or something, which is ridiculous. Had there had been some open dialogue all those years ago, things might have been different in the last 4 years under Joe Biden. And now, as we're seeing it go back to the way it was under President Trump, and he didn't even have that much dialogue with Putin. It's better to have some kind of dialogue than not have one. And everyone is, I know how some on the left or some people in general in the media like to fearmonger and say, Russia, we're going back to the Soviet Union. They're not the Soviet Union anymore. They're just one big country. Do they have influences? Yeah, but they have agreements with the former countries of the Soviet Union, who can enter NATO, who can't enter NATO. And, America always plays like the diplomatic role and things like that. And that's what President Trump, he's very good at. I don't have a problem with this. In fact, he promised he would end this war, and it looks like it's about to end. And I can say a lot. That says a lot to and attest to President Trump's strengths and why people elected him. In this one instance, and in a couple more there, he's correct. And this is what we voted President Trump in for. And he is 100% correct with this issue.
Now, Joe Paul, there is one area that I have not been able to figure it out. I'm definitely going to get Patricia's thoughts on this. It's this Gaza displacement plan. When Trump first announced this, his handlers tried to clean it up, saying that's not what he meant. But when he met with Jordan's president, King Hussein, this week, I think he said scared to be Jesus out of him.
He doubled down.
So much so, not only did he double down, Patrice and Joe, he got on the phone and called French President Macron and said, you all better wake up. We're in a crisis here. Not only that, the Arab states are in a panic. What is it? I understand he wants it to be the Middle East Riviera. I mean, whatever that means. I'm still trying to figure this out. Help us understand what the president is trying to do.
It's not that simple. I don't think anybody understands what the president's trying to do, and I don't even know if the president does in this case. So this is sacred land we're talking about. We're talking about hundreds of years between Israel and Palestine fighting for this land, and we can't just come in and take it and do what we will with it. There are laws, international laws that are in place, and we can't just swipe our finger and wipe it, say, hey, this is what's happening. So Gaza is a protected land, and it should be treated as such. The Palestinian people have been, you name it, I mean, bombed, displaced, children's died. I mean, it's nonsensical what has happened to the Palestinian people. They deserve to be home. They call Palestine home. They deserve to call that place home. Us coming in and calling it a Riviera or putting beachfront property is not doing it justice. And the Middle East is absolutely right to be in an uproar because the way we look at it from America is very different than folks who actually live there. We just see a land across the way, but this is sacred land to a lot of folks.
Let us take a quick break. We got another segment with this panel. I'm Armstrong Williams. Don't go away. That one I don't understand.
It is easier to build up strong children than to try and repair broken men.
The streets are plagued with crime, violence, there's a lot of poverty, and it's all a result of lack of education that's happening in our schools. So it really is a crisis.
We come from very different political perspectives, but we've come to the same conclusion, and that is there is a crisis in the classroom. Children are being deprived of quality of life because they're being deprived of a good education. We must solve this problem. It's incumbent upon all of us to join hands together to get this done.
We can't afford to wait one more day before we address these issues because every day we lose another child.
Let's stop the politicking. Let's stop the games. Let's really do something to give these kids a real chance at life and being a part of that American dream.
We need accountability for funding. Many of the districts where you're seeing very low test scores, students graduating with very low literacy and math comprehension rates, they are receiving a lot of funding. So where is the money going where our kids aren't being adequately educated?
If you believe every child is deserving of a quality education, please go to educationjusticefoundation.com. Let me say this as we continue this discussion. As of this day, and I want to wish Patricia and Virginia a happy Valentine's. I know you celebrated it yesterday, but I want to make sure that I do my gentleman thing to wish you all that. Every nominee thus far that the president has put forth has been confirmed. Now, we saw the theater about Robert Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel. You can go on and on and on. Robert Kennedy is Secretary of Health and Human Services. What does that mean? Why are they so up in arms, Patrice? Is it that the Democrats, as I said earlier on this show, need a scalp? They're just not getting it. Because Trump is unlike any other candidate who's ever become president. He is fearless. It's his way, there's no other way. Patricia?
Well, there was a scout, Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz, if you remember,
not really. They floated a trial balloon to just see where their temperatures were. That was something that it never serious about Matt Gaetz. Come on now.
That may be the case, but what President Trump has this time around that he did not have the first time was such a sweeping mandate. The public support, when you're talking about both his electoral win in the Electoral College as well as in the popular vote, and the mandate to reform government, to bring prices down, and to really bring change in America, that's sweeping change across cultures and institutions. That is why I think the Democrats have had a hard time trying to come down, figure out what is their best attack plan against a lot of these nominees. And the punches have not landed, in part because the allegations or the people that they're able to make allegations with, they've fizzled out, or because the senators, the 100 senators in the Senate, they have talked to these individual nominees and recognized that the scare tactics and the fear mongering from the left is unwarranted. There are some cases. I mean, Marco Rubio is the only our State Department head is the only one who is confirmed, 99 U.S. senators. Certainly, we've seen the margins much slimmer on some of the other more controversial nominees. But that tells you something, which is that there have been areas where Democrats have crossed the aisle to support these nominees. And so I think that the good strategy for Democrats would be, okay, where can we work together and obviously give President Trump, who has the agenda and the mandate from the people to actually get his work done, work together on those areas rather than trying to stall and throw temper tantrums that make the Democratic Party look undisciplined, unorganized, and frankly unfocused.
You know, Virginia, earlier this week, the judge restored President Trump's administration buyout offer to federal workers. But as soon as it was restored, they shut it down. It was over. No more opportunities to take advantage of it. Why?
Yeah, it's a good question. You know, I think this is really contingent. Something that we're going to continue to see is so many legal challenges around the work that the president is trying to do. But we got to remember what the point of this is, right? It goes back to that mandate that Patricia was just talking about of trimming down the government, of shrinking the size of the government. And both Elon Musk and Trump have been very clear they want, at least 5% of the federal workforce to take this offer, to take this buyout, and that to move swiftly. And I think it's only fair for the individuals who are also accepting that buyout for them to know this is fully legal. And yes, I will be receiving that money that I've been promised. And so by the courts kind of being clear and ruling one way or another, I think it frees individuals in the federal government to take that buyout offer. They have yet to hit that number, though, that they wanted to hit in individuals receiving that buyout. So then I think phase 2 is likely going to be increased layoffs like we've already seen. In Washington, D.C., a lot of federal workers are on edge because there is this massive downsizing that is happening, this trimming of the fat. And as we've talked about, that's not necessarily a surprise. I think it's happening a lot faster than so many individuals thought it would. It's been rapid succession, but this is exactly what Elon Musk and Trump said that they wanted to do, and they are doing it swiftly.
Aideen advised me not to bring this up. And I'm going to bring it up because she advised me not to, because I got a hard head, okay? But I want your perspective on why Trump gave the Oval Office photo op to Musk with his son. I'd never really seen Musk before, but I thought it was a little off-putting, if I had to admit so. I just did not think it was a good optic with the kid. But Sal, let me start with you.
I think maybe he's trying to make it, he brings his son to work. It's almost like a feel-good story, I guess, or try to put Elon Musk in a good light because he's receiving a lot of hate from many people. I like Elon Musk. I think he's great. I love what he's doing with the government. There's another issue that President Trump gets right again, bringing him in. And I don't see the problem with it. I mean, it might look a little tacky for some, but as a common person, a common man and woman in America probably looks at that and goes, hey, look, he's bringing his son to work. He's got him in Oval Office, and it's a feel-good story. I mean, that's how I see it.
I don't see it like that at all, Sal. I'm not really sure what you were looking at, but from my perspective, it looks like
from the common man's perspective.
Well, it looked like he was desecrating the Oval Office. Bringing in your kid, not even dressed appropriately. So let me finish, Sal. So it looks like he was desecrating the office. It also looked like.
Why would you say desecrating the office?
Well, because Elon Musk they could have been anywhere else to host that interview. And standing there, making Trump look small, making President Trump look small, and maybe someone.
Can you make President Trump look small?
You absolutely can.
I guess in your eyes they can.
You absolutely can.
Okay.
You can see in Trump's body language where he starts
He was a little uncomfortable. He was a little uncomfortable.
He was uncomfortable.
I'm not going to deny that. I was uncomfortable.
So was I.
I was uncomfortable.
So was I. And you can see Trump kind of, when Trump does this thing and then leans in, he's not in a good place, okay?
And I'm not going to blame the kid for what he said. The kids are kids. I mean, kids say some of the most ridiculous things. But Patricia, you had to be some kind of way, Patricia.
I actually agree. I did not like the optics. Probably they did not hit the way that President Trump signing the Save Women's Sports executive order with all of those beautiful female sports athletes behind him. That hit. This one didn't quite resonate, and I think it was people try to compare it to when JFK had one of his children underneath the desk, and you see the little kid kind of popping out while his dad is busy at work. Maybe there was the hope that it would kind of come off that way, but then when Elon Musk is talking and his son is like grabbing his hat and pulling his face, I understand that people maybe he thought that was okay. It's not the same as during the inauguration when J.D. Vance and his kids were when he was trying to control his kids. So listen, I'm a mom. I've got 3 boys. I get this. This happens when you bring them to work.
You don't know what you're going to get.
President Trump did look visibly uncomfortable.
He was uncomfortable. Here's the question I must ask Virginia Allen. Why would Trump make himself chairman of the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts? Come on in. Somebody help me understand that. I have not figured that one out.
Well, I'll answer that for you. It's because they have pushed so much woke ideology for so long. And I drive by the Kennedy Center all the time as it's lit up in, the rainbow colors from the gay flag. I think that, like so many Americans, the president is a little bit tired of this woke agenda that has been pushed by the arts community.
Then appoint the right person. You got so many to choose from. Appoint the right person. The president, chairman. Oh, come on, Virginia.
Maybe he likes
Come
the
on,
theater.
come on.
He likes the ballet. He wants
Trump,
to spend a little more time there.
He's barely gone to the Kennedy Center.
He's admitted it. He said, he said, I haven't seen any of the shows.
Oh, Lord.
He said it. He said it.
That makes sense to me.
He said, I haven't seen any of the shows. Look, when you're talking about woke ideology, let's rip the mask off a little bit. We're talking about black and brown people.
Oh,
right?
we're not. No, come on, Joe.
That's what I believe.
Come on, Joe.
That's what I believe.
You always bringing back the race.
You kind of have to. Because
you have to.
So let's see which
issue
shows
is,
don't make it off the cutting room floor next year now that President Trump is the chairman. Let's see. And I can guarantee you a majority of those shows will be the Alvin Ailey's, the black and brown shows that most people show. I was at the Kennedy Center literally last week.
Patrice, what were you going to say, Patrice?
Hopefully, here's what will happen, that there'll be shows that will bring a lot of money and revenue in, because from what we understand, the outgoing executive leadership at the Kennedy Center, there was zero money in reserves. They were burning through whatever cash savings that they had. So that tells me that there's not good fiscal discipline, and there's not a good someone in charge who knows how to turn a profit with this organization.
They're not
So
business.
maybe that's why President Trump is stepping in for the time being. I do hope he does put somebody else in charge who can figure out the kind of content that will bring people in.
Let me finally, you know what? Can you tell I'm enjoying this? I love it when you guys try to defend something you cannot defend, and your body language tell you that's not what you really believe, but you're trying to defend it. You understand that, right? But yeah, finally with you, Sal. Donald Trump has done so much in the last 3 weeks and the last month. I feel like it's been 2 years. I mean, working, focus, say whatever you want to say about the disruption, but the man is working for the American people. And for someone like us in the press, it's just overwhelming, Sal.
Oh, it is. Well, listen, I cover a lot of the stuff he's doing, and I think the only blemish he has right now is the whole Eric Adams situation, which is now tumbled into suing New York State for the illegal migrants that are there, but leaving Eric Adams off that lawsuit. And, Eric Adams himself is for a sanctuary city. In fact, he did not veto a bill which is now in the courts where illegals will be allowed to vote in local elections. I don't know if President Trump even knows that, but that's what Eric Adams is up to. So other than that blemish, how could you not like what you're seeing after the last 4 years? I think the entire, America First agenda, you're seeing it in front of your very eyes. And other than this little blemish, which could be fixed at any moment, I think this has been everything.
Oh, that cannot be repaired. That horse has left the barn. But let me tell you about something when you're on TV. What Sal just did, it's called pivoting. He went back to what he really wanted to talk about, Mayor Eric Adams, and not the question but it's okay. We do it here. It's okay. I enjoy all of you, Virginia, Joe, Patrice. Oh, I'm coming back. I thought I had another guest in the last segment. Maybe I don't. You guys are coming back. Guess what? You guys are coming back. I'm ahead of myself. We'll be back. I don't think so. I think this is...
As a home buyer, you need a lender who cares about your home ownership dreams. United Security Financial has been helping families secure their dream homes for 30 years. We're a national fair practice lender that provides affordable mortgages and low down payment programs to eligible home buyers. To learn how United Security Financial can help you secure your dream home, call 1-800-373-4186.
So, in this segment, instead of my asking the questions, I'm going to give each of our guests a chance to talk about issues that we should talk about today that we don't bring in enough focus. I'm going to start with you, Joe Paul.
You know, the first thing that I definitely want us to talk about is artificial intelligence. It's happening to us, around us, and China's gaining ground. And so I applaud President Trump for the $500 billion infusion into this space. And what we need to do more. Artificial intelligence is literally happening to us. It's happening whether you like it or not. Artificial intelligence influences what interest rate you may have on your home, or whether you get into college or not, or whether you get hired for a particular job. And I don't think we're talking too much enough about AI's impact and its growing impact on the country.
Virginia?
Well, I think an issue we've touched on just lightly that is worth talking about here for a moment more is that of the border and deportations. And it's been interesting to see, even just this week, that Border Czar Tom Homan said, even though we are making so many arrests of criminal and illegal aliens, he's not pleased with the numbers. He wants to see even more arrests made. ICE has been given a mandate from Tom Homan to arrest between 1,200 and 1,500 criminal and illegal aliens every single day. And Homan wants to see that number increase even more. We've seen the first deportation flights back to Venezuela this week. Of course, Venezuela is the home of the Tren de Aragua, the prison gang there, some of the most violent individuals that have entered our country. So there is constant movement forward on that front. And that is one of really the foundational issues that the American people voted for. And the Trump administration is going to keep delivering on that, even despite, I want to point out, that the Pope wrote a letter actually to the U.S. this week, to U.S. officials, to the president, saying that, hey, this is not right, deporting these illegal aliens. And Homan's response was just golden, essentially telling the Pope, hey, stay in your own lane, take care of your own house. You have walls that surround you and protect you. Let us do our job and actually keep the American people safe.
Patricia?
Well, this week we saw that the inflation report, the consumer price index came out, and once again we're seeing inflation accelerating, meaning it's taking back off. Now, if folks know, prices have not come down to their pre-2021 levels, so we're talking about increase on prices, and not just on eggs. I know that the eggs have increased over 50% in the past year, and that has to do with kind of a unique environmental phenomenon going on with bird flu. But across the board, we're seeing in a number of different categories prices increasing, and particularly on the bills, the monthly expenditures, whether you're talking about rent or how much you're paying in car insurance. And so the question is, will the Federal Reserve do anything? The Federal Reserve has not cut rates. They've kind of held steady, hoping that we've seen the end of inflation, but inflation is going back in the wrong direction. We saw President Trump this week call on Jerome Powell to cut interest rates once again, in hopes that maybe that will start to provide some relief for regular folks who are paying higher sums on their consumer debt, their car notes, and their bills, their credit card bills. So we'll have to see how it goes. But the administration would be wise to roll out messaging around higher prices and why it's going to take some time, certainly, to see the prices come back down and to see inflation come back down, and obviously some changes in terms of permitting reform and energy production that will help to cut costs for delivery of the goods of your eggs to your grocery store.
That's a good point. Sal?
I like what Patricia said because she sticks to facts and numbers, and I hope that America sticks to facts, because a lot in the media, like you had someone last night spewing conspiracy theories of Letitia James and Eric Adams and stuff, and it's all crazy stuff. That's what they hope to hook you in for, a low information base. They don't be low information, become informed. Follow the evidence, follow the facts. You heard just some facts just now? You should look into that. The American people should read into that, and they'll say, oh, she makes sense. She's telling you the truth. Instead of listening to others that parrot narratives for you to become a low information and stay low information voter, and then, they'll keep you under their feet. So what I want for America is to not be a low information voting base. Stay informed, look at all the angles, because there's a lot of deceptive people out there in the media trying to spin narratives for whatever purpose it is.
I want to paint a picture. Aideen is my executive producer. I like calling her name because she's on the opposite side of the political spectrum than I am, but I have a lot of respect for her. But she's been telling me, Arm, there are a lot of people scared. People are really afraid. They're nervous, they're insecure, and they're fragile. So this is what I didn't tell her. It's just fascinating. People like to talk about how those who are already disenfranchised, the poor, the middle class, feel that they're suffering and losing their way of life. I've spoken to so many business owners who supported Trump, by the way, who are being threatened, farmers who've been threatened by his immigration policies, his deportation policies. Not only that, they're migrants that are working for them, and obviously these migrants must have issues with their papers. They're so afraid, they're not even showing up for work, because they are afraid that ICE is going to come, load them up, and ship them out of this country. And it's so quiet, they're not talking about it. Some have literally shuttered their businesses. They've had to shut it down. And they're not even going to school. They won't even go to school. Why? Because the parents feel the child is going to be arrested. You know what's funny, Virginia? Nobody's talking about this, but it is so real. I hear it so much. It is scary. Not from typical people on the left that didn't vote for Trump, but I'm talking to people who voted for him, and they're crying in silence. What can be done? Can somebody get to him? What do you say about this narrative that nobody wants to talk about? Because it is real, Patricia.
Mm-hmm. It shines a light, I think, so much on the vastness of this problem, that we've had 10 million illegal aliens enter our country over the past 4 years, and they are working in small businesses that are owned by Republicans and Democrats. So this is an issue that affects the whole country. And so, Armstrong, I think you're right. And it is a difficult one to navigate, because you're trying to fix a problem that has become really inundated in the entire United States. And so I think it would be wise for the Trump administration to be very clear, to continue. They've been clear, but I think they need to continue to say, we are, in fact, prioritizing the arrest and the deportation of criminal illegal aliens above anyone else.
But the problem with that, and I don't mean to interrupt you, there are many people that are being rounded up that are not illegal.
That's right.
They're not criminals, and they're part of the sweep.
Yeah.
How do you differentiate and put a policy in place where innocent people don't get swept up in this deportation?
Well, for one thing, if they've entered the country illegally, they're not innocent. They've already broken our laws just by being here. Now, I'm not saying that that's a popular opinion, but it is a fact.
Okay. We're having a conversation. Sal, I'm listening to you. I know you have some input on this one.
Well, when it comes to this, let's be honest. If there are 30 or 40 million, illegal immigrants in this country, you don't have enough judges or personnel to possibly deport all these people. That's just a fact, whether a Republican or Democrat wants to admit that or not. So what we are targeting here in the Trump administration, what they're targeting is the criminal element of that. What you're looking for is, how do you differentiate the regular person that's possibly trying to get their paperwork, paying I mean, you're talking about the working class side of it. These are people that work, and I presume they're trying to pay taxes or are paying taxes, versus the Trendiaragua types, those types. That's the criminal element that we need to exit this country forthwith before it becomes a criminal syndicate that's running rampant, along with the gang violence that we have in the inner cities, and now they're clashing. So that is who the Trump administration is targeting. And I think this, again, low information narrative of, you know, Trump's just rounding everyone up and going to schools and hospitals and stuff, that is false. They are targeting the criminal element out of this group of illegal immigrants. We cannot possibly deport everyone, nor is it feasible, and it is also not right, in my opinion.
Patricia?
Well, I mean, President Trump is certainly not the first president to prioritize deportations, as President Obama certainly deported millions of illegal immigrants. And so the question, though, and I think it's a legitimate question to ask, which is, okay, once we've hit all of the violent criminals, once we've hit the people who are on terrorist list or have terrorist connections, then what happens next? Because you do have a lot of people who are working and living in this country, maybe for a couple of years, or maybe it's been for decades. So how do you treat those individuals? And so are we talking about amnesty? And I think that's very unpopular with Republicans in particular, but with a lot of American people. One thing to add, though, just in this topic, it's going to take some time, and it's going to take recognition that the business sector, the private sector, plays a role in illegal immigration. Just as we've seen charities, a lot of large charities like Catholic Charities playing a role in the facilitation of human trafficking by providing for the illegal migrants that are relocated here. Businesses have to come to some to realization that, yes, the labor might be cheap, but are these individuals here that you're hiring? Should you be hiring them? And are we enforcing the rules against businesses instead of just against individuals? You've got to be fair. And so, that may mean that costs go up in providing the goods and services that we depend on. Or does it mean that Congress takes a look at some of our different visa programs and creates greater flexibility to bring on a temporary basis different types of workers to this country, so that businesses can get that skilled or unskilled labor that they need for short temporary periods of time, and then those individuals go back home? It's messy, and it's going to take time, but it's a legitimate conversation to start having.
It is. I want to say this on a lighter note. Yes, the penny has outserved its usefulness. So has the nickel, in my opinion. And let me tell you, for those of you that make fun of Trump bringing back the plastic straw, let me tell you, for any of you who've ever tried drinking a milkshake with a paper straw, a fruit drink, and it just melts, it falls apart. Our tea, okay? Let me be clear. For anybody who's experienced what it's like not having a plastic straw, you will say amen to bringing back the plastic straw and getting rid of that paper straw. I was trying to figure out who in the world in the first place came up with something with so nonsense. So I ended on that note. Listen, Joe Paul, Patrice Onwuka, Sal Greco, Virginia Allen, you guys are just the best. I love this exchange of ideas. We all grow. America's better. And this is what journalism should be about. Facts and fictions, not conservative or liberal, Democrat or Republican, but just tell the truth and empower the people. I'm Armstrong Williams, and we're out of here.